Good evening. I want to welcome everyone to another episode of RADTV live at 5:25 here on CCTV, Channel 17 in Chittenden County, Centre for Media and Democracy and Town Meeting Television. RAD stands for Rights and Democracy, a grassroots, people-powered organisation committed to creating an independent political movement for long-lasting, fundamental change in Vermont and New Hampshire. I'm your host this evening, Tom Proctor. Rights and Democracy TV is back this month with a COVID-19 RAD TV special. We're going to give an intricate view on how RAD is continuing their vital work during this uniquely challenging time. So you can stick around for interviews with RAD community members, politicians, and hear how we're continuing to build a grassroots, people-powered political revolution in Vermont and New Hampshire. So guests this evening, we have Organising Director for Rights and Democracy in New Hampshire, Isaac Grimm. We have got the President pro tempore of the Vermont Senate, Chittenden State Senator Tim Ash. We have Alissandra Rodriguez-Murray, the MHT Nashua County Regional Organizer in New Hampshire, and the RAD Regional Organizer for Addison County, Jubilee McGill. Starting us off this evening, we have Alissandra Rodriguez-Murray. And with me now is Alissandra Rodriguez-Murray, the Manchester and Nashua Organizer for RAD New Hampshire. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for coming on to RAD TV. Is this your first time?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Oh, well, welcome, and we hope to get you back at some other point. Tonight we'll be talking about the COVID pandemic and how it is affecting the areas around Vermont and New Hampshire. So how are things going currently in Manchester and Nashua?
Manchester has done a really good job of taking care of specifically students and families in need. They've converted the normal school bus route to be a drop-off for food for the families and students that don't have food on a regular basis. So they're still doing their daily routes and passing out resources and things that the community needs. And Nashua has done some similar initiatives as well.
And have you felt that you've had good leadership in both those areas when it comes to tackling this crisis?
Both mayors are really strong leaders for the cities when it comes to things like this. And I really admire their quick action and how much they've done to make things accessible to the public. Joyce Craig in Manchester recently worked with the aldermen to ensure that the public still has a way to participate in Board of Aldermen meetings and leave public comment. They're maintaining social distancing to allow some people to still come and view the sessions if they don't have another option to be a part of that, of the city meetings. The only hole I've really seen in either city has been when it comes to people who don't have homes or weren't able to make it into the shelters. In Manchester, they basically kind of shut down the shelters where they were at. People who were in, and people who were out couldn't get in. So there was kind of a leftover piece of the population that wasn't getting the help they needed. And I've been working with a group called Mutual Aid and Defense New Hampshire, and we've been trying to help out that portion of the population as much as we can.
And how's it been organizing in this brave new world?
It's definitely completely different. I feel like there was a lot of momentum that kind of came to a halt on certain projects that were kind of starting to get the ball rolling again, but I'm definitely finding a lot of people are not as excited to attend Zoom meetings as they are in-person meetings, or Zoom rallies as they are in-person rallies. So it's all about finding the balance of keeping the work going and communicating with people consistently, but also not overloading them with too much computer time.
Absolutely. It's very easy to feel burnt out after an entire day of Zoom meetings.
Exactly.
And you mentioned that you've been working directly with some COVID response, especially with the homeless population in your area. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so the group that I've been working with, Mutual Aid and Defense, had started back in November, I believe, doing a sort of free shop in the downtown area where we would show up with hygiene materials, donated clothing, sleeping bags, tents, like whatever we had, and food, and let people take what they needed. And we had set up a pretty good routine. With the beginning of the pandemic, we wanted to stop doing that because we didn't want to encourage large gatherings of people. So we've been doing creating like these little grab bags. So we'll create like food bags, hygiene bags, stuff like that, and then go out to the parks and kind of distribute one-on-one while we're trying to maintain the same social distance practices of, you know, tell us what you need, we'll leave it on the ground right here, and then you come get it, like that sort of thing.
And so, how have you seen any perceptions changed since the start of this pandemic, either with the people who organize or the wider public in your area?
I think there's been a change in realizing how much we have to be in things together. Like if something affects one of us, it really will end up affecting all of us. And what can we do to help someone in need before the problem spreads to all of us? And I feel like COVID-19 has really been a magnifying glass on issues that people of color, especially, or low-income people, have been experiencing for quite a while, and now we're all kind of like being illuminated to these systematic issues that exist in our state. And I'm hoping that we can take that new insight and use it to further broaden our work.
And finally, if anyone who's watching that does want to help you out in your area or would like to contribute, where can they do that?
So you can either contact me at alissandra@radnh.org or at my phone number. Both are on our RADNH website. Or you can go on Facebook and look up Mutual Aid and Defense New Hampshire, and on that page there's a donation link to help us provide the resources we are to the local homeless population.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show this evening, and we hope to have you back on again sometime soon.
Thanks, likewise.
All right. With me now is Isaac Grimm, Organizing Director for Rights and Democracy New Hampshire. How's it going?
Good. Hey, Tom. Glad to be with you.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. I believe, is this your first time on Rad TV?
No, I've been on a couple of times.
Well, welcome back. So today we'll be talking about the COVID pandemic and how areas across Vermont and New Hampshire are dealing with the ongoing crisis. So Isaac, as the Organizing Director for Rights and Democracy New Hampshire, what is community building like during this crisis, and how has this pandemic changed your organizing work, if any?
Yeah, I mean, community building is challenging right now when we're restricted from being in the same space with each other in large numbers, and the safest thing to do is really for everyone to just stay at home. So we've pivoted to using all the digital tools available to make sure that we can still bring people together, from Zoom meetings. We have all of our chapters across New Hampshire meeting locally, but just through Zoom. And we're doing a lot of outreach to folks and assessing their needs, you know, and connecting them with a lot of like mutual aid networks that have been created throughout New Hampshire. I know that's happening in a super robust way in Vermont as well. And just assessing like anybody who has support needs and making sure we get them into these spreadsheets, and then connecting them with people who were you know, IDing as volunteers who want to help out, and just like providing that sort of connector role. And then we've been, you know, doing as much as we can to kind of share out resources for, you know, community and mental health for folks in the, you know, in the recovery community, for folks who are seniors or low income, people who have needs right now, and like just trying to provide those resources so that we are getting that out there as much as possible, so people have the resources they need to cope right now. And then we've been doing some larger events. After the Bernie campaign ended, we brought together a huge call to discuss what's next after the Not Me Us campaign is, you know, officially over. And we had over 200 people come together. That was really, really exciting and inspiring. We had, you know, national leaders like Ro Khanna join us, and Ana Maria Archila from the Center for Popular Democracy, and some of our leaders speak. Our new Vermont Movement Politics Director, Kai Morris, spoke and was really inspiring. So we've been, you know, doing a lot of events. It feels like we're busier than ever because there's so much important work to do, and a lot of the underlying issues that we're always organizing to address, from lack of healthcare access to low wages and poverty, to environmental destruction and lack of funding for basic social needs. All of those things are just, they're thrown into even higher, contrast right now because of the pandemic, right? So it's not like there's a brand new set of needs. There's a deeper set of needs because of what's going on right now with our economy and our healthcare system. And so community building, and there's just so many opportunities for it, right? And there's fun ways we can do it too. Like we've done some, just happy hours of having people get together on Zoom, and, co-sponsored with the League of Conservation Voters, a trivia night just this week. And so there's a lot of ways that we're trying to be creative about bringing people together and building community, given the challenges that we're facing right now.
And so you mentioned a few major issues for RAD that have been kind of brought into stark relief for a lot of people, especially during this crisis. Do you feel like there's been any societal changes or any shifts in consciousness during this pandemic?
So yes and no. I mean, for some people, I think that, it's been really upsetting to see these protests of people just flouting safety standards and just having these protests of trying to open everything back up immediately. But on the other side of that coin, I think it does make pretty obvious that our healthcare system is deeply flawed when it's tied to your employer, and then all of a sudden we have tens of millions of people out of work. That makes it pretty obvious that that's not the way that our healthcare system should be structured. So I think for a lot of people that is a wake-up call, and making it clear that there needs to be deep reform. We've been doing this deep canvas phone banking project. We were originally going to be doing a deep canvas of knocking doors, and now it's all phone calls. But we're reaching out to folks who are undecided voters and trying to have these deeper conversations about what's going on with them right now. And we're finding that when we start the conversation with the kind of basic questions, like, this just kind of stating the fact that this is a really tough time for us, that it's a really divisive time, but no matter what you believe, it's really important that we have deep conversations with each other and that we be connecting in this time. And that's really helping open up the avenue for longer and deeper conversations with folks who you wouldn't necessarily expect there to be a 15-30 minute deep conversation. And so that's been really effective. And I think it's really important that we do try to reach out in that way to folks who are not already, progressive activists. And be able to form those connections. I think that's the only chance we have of really moving a lot of people who otherwise might be only getting their information from Fox News, for example.
And finally, how can RAD and our communities respond better to the next emergency? And how can we respond better just next week in terms of what we'll be doing right now and what do we need to do right next week?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the more folks can plug in with the mutual aid work that's going on locally in your communities, the better. We have some resources listed on both radvt.org and radnh.org of great organizations to contribute to. I would also say Rights and Democracy is a great organization to continue to support. So, folks becoming members is really important. But also, like, there is just like real serious direct needs right now. So, people should continue to give what they can. We're getting this stimulus check for anybody that feels like that they can give some of that. It's a great way to support others in the community. There's a lot of really good food banks that are helping people out right now. And then, like, for longer term, we need to be helping folks make meaning out of this moment. And like the kind of significance that they should draw from this is that we do need basic kind of public systems that will protect us, both in terms of the research that we need and the development so that we're prepared for future pandemics, and that there's a basic respect for science and the recommendations that come from the CDC over the well-being of shareholders or Wall Street. But it's more important than ever that we fight for structural reforms in our system so that we're well prepared and have a strong and equitable economy so that these kinds of pandemics that will happen again in the future are not having such a horrible disproportionate impact on the people who are already struggling the most in our society. The rate at which Black people have been dying from coronavirus is well above that of white people, and that's because of very deep and very problematic structural inequality that's been baked into our economic and political and social system for centuries. So there's so much that we need to do to be connecting with people right now and fighting for the deep structural reforms that we need, so that in the long term we're actually well positioned for people to be able to survive this, no matter what, you know, color skin they have or where they were born or what their gender is.
Well, Isaac, thank you so much for joining me today, and keep fighting the good fight.
Thanks, you too, Tom. It's psyched to have you on the RAD team.
Thank you very much. All right. And with me now, it's Jubilee McGill, the regional organizer for Rights and Democracy in Addison County. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being on the show.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about what Addison County is doing at the moment in terms of mutual aid and how it's reacting to the COVID crisis.
Yeah. So very early on, I saw some kind of county organizing mutual aid groups coming together. So I reached out to some of them and got their kind of some base materials, and I built a website, just a simple Google site, created some Google forms, just started reaching out to people, and we have a whole countywide website, Addison County mutualaid.org, and when you get there, you can click I need help or I want to help, and it brings you to a Google form, which auto-populates spreadsheets. And then in each town, we have at least one point person who looks at both spreadsheets and kind of matches people with needs with people who want to help. And we've partnered with United Way. They've raised a significant amount of money, both to help fund service organizations in our county, which is kind of in line with their general mission, but they also have a relief fund. So we've been able to direct people there who need kind of some help financially or navigating systems like filing for unemployment, filing for benefits from the state, things like that. And so we've been able to help people get some grants to kind of stay afloat until those programs they start receiving money. We've also been able to source volunteers from our mass list. We've worked with United Way and some local organizations like food shelves and shelters. We had a whole group of people baking for one of our local shelters for their community meals. So it's been amazing. I mean, I think one of the biggest issues that people have been worried about is food security in this county, and I think we've done really, really well. I also work for Rights and Democracy. I also work part-time for the John Grant Shelter in Virgins, that we have some buildings throughout Addison County. And so I've been the coordinator for the COVID-19 response. And so we have a lot of the people experiencing homelessness are being sheltered now at hotels. And we have coordinated with Middlebury College to create it so they get 3 meals a day. And we've gotten some help. We've gotten some volunteers through the United Way and through the mutual aid. We've gotten mutual aid volunteers, people, they're in the hotel by themselves or just with their family for days on end. So we've sourced volunteers to help bring them things they need, things to help make the time go by easier. So we just have this awesome coordinated effort that really is designed for anyone, and all socioeconomic classes, political parties, anyone who needs help. We're going to figure out how to get it.
So would you say that the response in Addison County has been reliant on your efforts, or has it worked in tandem with the local government there?
I think it works in tandem, not so much with the government, but we work with the systems, CVOEO is a local nonprofit, but, funding through the state, and working with these organizations, economic services department, the school district, all of those things. So I think we've got, there's no one group. I think everyone's kind of really pitching in, working together, and it's had a wonderful, wonderful result.
As you mentioned, you are the organizer for Addison County for Rights and Democracy. How have you found that side of your work to be, and how have you organized in this post-COVID time?
Yeah. So Rights and Democracy did let us kind of adjust our work plans so that we can, do some of our hours for organizing. We can actually be putting into supporting these mutual aid efforts. My group, we have a dedicated Rights and Democracy lets us use. They created a Slack channel for us, so we can all easily communicate with each other. And it's been a chance to kind of have an opportunity to talk to people I probably never would have met. I'm making calls in our community and finding out, what people are experiencing, what people need. And that, in the end, I think really is how we drive policy, is getting those stories and, finding, once you know the need, then you can kind of address it on a government level. So I know that's something we're kind of working on now in Rights and Democracy. So I think it definitely ties into organizing.
And finally, have you felt any sea change or perception shifts with people you talk to regards to these new policies that are now coming forward, that progressives like Rights and Democracy have been pushing for years and now seem to be no-brainers for governments? Have you seen people's perceptions change at all towards these quote-unquote socialist policies?
I have seen so much. I have seen Medicare for all. I've had a lot of conversations with people where I didn't get it, but now, if you don't have your job where you get your health care, then you don't have health care. So that has been, the biggest trend I've seen in conversations is a lot of people now are really, really starting to take hold on that idea.
Excellent. And lastly, actually, if people would like to help out Addison County, would like to help out your organization efforts, where can they go to either pitch in or donate some money?
Yeah, if you're in Addison County or outside of Addison County and you want to donate money, I would go to United of Addison County and donate to their COVID Addison County response campaign. Because we're not like an official mutual aid filed, we didn't want to collect money. So we've worked with United Way to do that. So yeah, definitely donate to United Way as Addison County Responds. You can check out AddisonCountyMutualAid.org, or we are on Facebook, Addison County Mutual Aid.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Jubilee, and keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you.
And with me now, Senate President, Chittenden State Senator Tim Ash. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being on the show today. So how has Vermont responded into the crisis compared to other states?
Well, it's, I think, been a testament to the people of Vermont that we took this seriously right from the very beginning. We were one of the first states to start taking aggressive measures to rein in the public health crisis. And people have been complying with the orders, as difficult personally and economically as that's been. So from a community-wide point of view, I think we've handled this very well. I think state government, starting at the top with our governor, have issued strong public health measures. All of us in leadership positions in the legislature have been unified that those have been required actions. And so that's all, I think, been very good. We've prioritized keeping people safe and alive as our first and fundamental goal. And then we've been doing everything we can from the legislative point of view, and then the administration has to actually do the details to make sure we're meeting people's basic human needs. And I think in all those regards, it puts Vermont in, unfortunately, as a bit of an outlier in terms of our flexibility and the immediacy of our response.
And what action should we expect in the coming weeks from the state government to help support Vermonters?
Well, we've passed some emergency measures through the Senate, and I think the House will be taking them up today and tomorrow, including a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures until the end of this crisis and a little bit beyond. And then in the Senate, I asked a group to come together in an informal work group to come up with essential worker bonus pay. Many organizations who are able to draw money from the federal government or from the state have been building in what some people might call hero pay or hazard pay. But there are many people who are on the front lines who are not going to get those resources unless state government steps up. Some of them are the ones we refer to frequently, the people who work at grocery stores at the registers, delivery people, people who work in homeless shelters, a whole wide swath of people. We're bringing forward a proposal this week that would put some money in people's pockets to recognize the risk they've taken interacting with members of the public as a matter of their jobs, to make sure they aren't the ones left behind economically.
And we've seen a few measures come into place that may have seemed quite extreme just a few weeks ago. Have you been seeing any ideological shifts in perception to certain policies, for example, Medicare for All?
I think there is a greater appreciation for policies like paid family leave. As you know, the Senate had a veto-proof majority here in Vermont. The House fell just one vote short. But even the Trump White House and the congressional Republicans and Democrats all put in place a federal paid leave program now that everyone understands how important it is. So that's a clear shift. I think also Medicare for All, or some version of healthcare for every citizen, has come into greater focus even for those who may have ideologically opposed it, because all across the country right now, not so much in Vermont, but all across the country, millions of people have been losing their health insurance as they're out of work. And in states that have abysmal Medicaid programs, it means that people are suffering very serious reductions in their health benefits. So my hope is that a silver lining of this crisis is that people take a step back and think practically about how we deliver an efficient, humane health benefits program for all, and get past the political divisiveness that people have used healthcare as in the past.
And finally, if people do need assistance and support during this crisis, where can they go? Who can they reach out to?
Well, it really depends on the issue, but I think all of the 6 Chittenden County senators stand ready to help when someone needs to know where to turn. So we are we're sort of 6 public information officers to help people if they need it. So that's my first recommendation, because we can try to help people solve the labyrinth of government and nonprofit services maybe easier than someone who doesn't think about it as frequently as we do. But the important thing is, if people have problems meeting their basic needs, do not be shy. Reach out and make sure that we're all there to take care of you.
Well, thank you very much for coming on to the show, Tim. I really appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me.
No worries. That's all we've got time for this evening. A big thank you to all our guests for being with us, and a big thank you for all the hard work that they are doing during this crisis. If you would like to get involved in the great work that we do, we have several events in the next month. On April 27th, we'll have the Vermont People's Bailout, a virtual town hall on COVID and the response of the federal and state government and what they're doing. On May Day, May 1st, we'll have a car parade headed by Migrant Justice. You can go to our Facebook page to find out more about that and get involved. There will be a car parade through Burlington where we'll be maintaining safe social distancing, but also turning up in person to get our message out. And on May 16th, we have a forum where we'll be discussing from what now to what next, visioning a just and equitable future, where we'll be discussing the Green New Deal and politics post-COVID. Our next episode of RADTV will be on May 22nd at 5:25, right here on CCTV Channel 17 in Chittenden County, where most likely we'll be doing it remotely and on Zoom again. And finally, thank you for watching our show. We really do hope you join us again next month, right here on the 4th Friday, live at 5:25. As a reminder, grants help fund specific campaigns and RAD as a whole, and we're always connecting with new organizations and donors for that work. However, our sustaining members assist in funding the grassroots campaigns that our members support, so please, please, please think about becoming a sustaining member today by visiting our website, radvt.org and radnh.org. I have been your host, Tom Proctor. This has been RADTV, and please stay home, stay safe. Good night.